All right, so 4 pros I like about the Under Armour HOVR Apex 3 is number 1, they redid the upper construction. So the upper up here in the toe box is that 3D mesh print, similar to what we got in the Under Armour TriBase Rain 3. Overall, I think this upper is much more flexible and maneuverable and breathable compared to the prior Apex 2's more 3D rubber print on the upper, which made the shoe pretty dang heavy. The second thing that I like about this model, speaking of heavy, is that it's slightly lighter compared to the HOVR Apex 2. The Apex 2 was very chonky. This shoe weighs about 13.6 ounces, which is down a fair amount compared to the HOVR Apex 2. That's not too drastic of a shift. So if you did like that overall shoe's construction, then I think you'll like the HOVR Apex 3. Plus it's a bit more lightweight, so it doesn't feel like a burden to wear for longer sessions, like the HOVR Apex 2 could at times just because they were so thick and heavy. The third thing that I like about this model is that it uses Under Armour's HOVR midsole. So the HOVR midsole in this shoe is slightly thicker. This model does have an 8mm heel toe drop, but overall, when it comes to stability and versatility in the shoe, the HOVR midsole does a fairly good job. You can run shorter distances in the shoe. I've trained up to about 400 pounds in this model, and I haven't had any glaring issues with compression. Now, what I would say is it's not going to be your best bet for maxing out, but for most recreational lifters, I think the HOVR midsole is going to provide them with plenty of stability. The fourth thing to like about this shoe is the TriBase tech on the outsole. So whenever Under Armour uses the TriBase tech in their shoes, I'm generally a pretty big fan of this. It provides the foot with a nice stable base. It promotes that tripod foot position. So if you want these for classes, training, shorter runs, plyometrics, HIIT training, etc., this model does a fairly good job at tackling those tasks. Now, despite liking this shoe and all the updated construction features in it compared to the HOVR Apex 2, let's talk about a couple of cons I have noticed. All right, so 2 potential cons I could see folks having with the HOVR Apex 3 is number 1, Under Armour is still using that TPU wrap here throughout the midfoot to secure the top 2 eyelets. We also have a third eyelet up here if you wish to use it. Now, the reason why I don't actually like this, even though in theory I do like the idea of having this more midfoot support, is that this plastic ends up tearing up your laces. So when it comes to lace long-term durability, the shoe I still think misses the mark in that realm. The second potential issue I could see folks having is with this upper extended outsole lip here, we have exposed midsole pretty close to the ground. So as you can see, like I already have a little bit of lipping here on this model. And honestly, I haven't worn this shoe for too long. I wore these to play pickleball in, to train in, and do some HIIT style workouts outside in. And we're already having that midsole kind of break down up here in the toe box. So something to be mindful of is that if you're using this shoe, try not to drag the toe in any means. I believe this is actually from pickleball with dragging my foot a little bit, but if you're training outside, for example, and you're using any form of HIIT workout or even sprint workout where you're going to be going from a prone to a standing position, this might be a problem for you, especially if you're worried about the long-term durability in this model. So when chatting performance in this model, we're going to break it into a few different sections. We're going to talk about lifting, plyometric, and HIIT, more like sport-focused workouts. We're going to talk about daily wear and then shorter runs. Now, in this model, when it comes to lifting, overall, it's a decent model for tackling more recreational training where you're not going super heavy. You can train up to like 400-ish pounds in these, and you don't have too much compression. Now, I will say, with thicker midsoles, you always do run into that issue of having a little bit more compression, so that's why I don't recommend this model for like maxing out your barbell lifts. But for somebody who's a bit more recreational in nature, who's doing a bit more like static strength work, this model should support your needs overall. And if you're looking for that shoe that does have that slight blend of versatility and stability, this model does a fairly good job, despite having a slightly thicker midsole. Now, when it comes to HIIT training, sport-focused activities, and any form of plyometric, I do really like this model. It's lighter than the previous HOVR Apex 2. This model weighs about 13.5 ounces for the size 10 model, so it is a bit more lightweight. And I think with that reworked upper construction, it feels a bit more maneuverable and breathable compared to previous iterations of the shoe. Plus, when you factor in the HOVR midsole and the TriBase outsole tech, this model does a fairly good job at accommodating takeoff and landing phases in these styles of activity. So if you want to wear these for classes or something to that nature, I think you're going to really like this model overall, and I think it does a better job than the HOVR Apex 2 at tackling those tasks. Now, when it comes to shorter runs and daily wear, for shorter runs, this model is okay. Whenever you have the HOVR midsole in the Under Armour shoes, it usually is good for about like 2 to 3-ish miles, and depending on how niche you're going with your shoe, that HOVR midsole can then accommodate different styles of running. This HOVR midsole is a bit more stable in nature. There's not a whole lot of compression going on with it, so when it comes to running, you should be safe running shorter distances without too much discomfort in this model. Plus, with the overall lighter weight nature of the shoe, I think it's a better option than the HOVR Apex 2 for that style of training. Now, on a day-to-day basis, what I would say is that you can definitely wear this model and have it be comfortable and supportive, but be very mindful of, again, that toe box construction up here and having that break down. Like, I think this shoe will last you a while if you're only training indoors and you're not really dragging or having any exposure to like things like concrete in this model. But if you do plan to wear this on a day-to-day basis or even run outside, be very wary of the overall toe box durability in this shoe, especially when it comes to the midsole construction. Now let's answer the question, is this model worth it? I think if you are a recreational lifter or somebody who wants a shoe for HIIT workouts, classes, etc., this is a pretty good model. It has a higher price point, however, you're getting a lot of proprietary Under Armour features in the shoe, and overall, it does offer a decent blend of versatility and stability. What I would say though, is to make your investment go the distance, try to limit the wear in these shoes only in gym settings and avoid having concrete exposure on the midsole here. On heel to toe drop and weight in this model, as for weight in a size 10 model, we're gonna have 13.6 ounces. That is down from the previous HOVR Apex 2. And then the heel to toe drop in this shoe is 8 millimeters, similar to prior Apex models. And I did confirm that with Under Armour's team. So in talking sizing and fit in this model, you should be fairly safe going true to size. In the prior Apex models, they have been a bit more snug in regard to length, but the length in this model feels a bit more true. Now, what I would say is actually that they brought the toe box in a little bit. However, with this reworked upper construction, you get a little bit more give there, so I don't think most folks will have to worry about the toe box feeling too cramped. So overall, you should be safe going true to size in this model. So when chatting on price in this model, you can expect to pay $140 USD. Now personally, I do wish they would bring the price point down a little bit in this model. The TriBase Rain 3 is at $120 USD. The HOVR Rise 3 is $100 USD. So to have this shoe be $140 USD and have these durability issues, I think is a little bit steep. However, if you are, once again, somebody who wants a shoe that is pretty solid across the board for stability and versatility in HIIT, classes, and recreational lifting settings, this model does a fairly good job, and it does have slightly better features compared to the HOVR Apex 2. So if you are a fan of this product line, then I do think you will like this model. All right, so now when looking at the construction of the HOVR Apex 3, up here in the toe, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up with more of a skinny lip here, and I did mention how we're having a little bit of midsole breakdown here due to friction on things like concrete. And then throughout the upper, we have this 3D mesh print. This is very similar to the Under Armour TriBase Rain 3's upper construction. Then throughout the midfoot, we actually have a reworked tongue here, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyelets that go up. We also have a 6th one here with this plastic TPU. Personally, I haven't found a use to actually use that model. And again, like with these TPU layers up here, we are gonna have some lace breakdown. Like as you can see, this lace is already starting to fray a little bit from my training sessions. So if you do grab this pair, I would highly suggest buying a slightly more durable pair of laces to put in this shoe. The tongue itself is pretty wide, it's pretty breathable too. As you can see, has a little bit of a breathability aspect up here on the top of it. We have 2 loops up here on the tongue and heel to help pull that shoe on. Then we have that plastic TPU wrap on the lateral and medial side. And we have an additional strap back here on the heel for additional support. So as you can see, has a little bit of give there, helps really lock down that heel. Making our way through the midsole, we have that HOVR midsole throughout. Then we have that TriBase outsole tech down here. We have some grooves up here in the forefoot for additional flexibility and mobility. And overall, I do like the outsole's blend of its construction features to promote stability and just being a bit more maneuverable in nature. Again though, what I would say is just be conscious of this midsole layer up here throughout the forefoot when you are training outdoors. Overall, I think that's the gist of the construction of this model. Compared to the HOVR Apex 2, I actually think the overall construction in this model is a step in the right direction, but I do wish Under Armour would either figure out how to use this TPU wrap a bit more effectively or just take it out completely because it just messes up your laces. But if you have any questions on the construction in this shoe, hit me in the comments below. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Under Armour HOVR Apex 3. Overall, I think this model is a step in the right direction compared to the 2. And if you have any questions on this shoe, drop them in the comments below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Peace. P.S. If you are a frequenter of the channel and you watch all of my reviews, we are in a new location. We just moved this past week, so I've really been trying to dial in and figure out the right lighting in this apartment. So if this video is formatted incorrectly, or if you just hate the whole setting here, let me know in the comments below. Go easy on me because I am trying to figure out what exactly is best, especially with natural lighting. But again, guys, see you in the next one. Thank you for rocking with me.